r/askReddit. What are you willing to go to jail or prison for? If the world was taken over by zombies but prisons were still pretty safe. Underrated comment: prisons would become the new malls. But if there is an outbreak in the prison, you're pretty fricked. This right here. Best answer of the question. Give this user an award. If someone physically hurts my daughter in any way. I don't have a daughter, but same. Yup. No kids here, but I'll be damned if I ever see someone in public hurting a child and I mind my business about it. Neither do I, but I do have nieces. If anyone hurt them, then it's time for war. Same for both of my children, even though they are adults. Total annihilation. I'm similar. Expect that it would be if anyone killed or abused any child of mine. I would enter that prison with pride, knowing that I did what I had to do. Beating someone to death with a wiffle bat. If I'm gonna go to jail, I want to make people wonder how and why I did it. How to quickly assert your dominance in prison. I did it like this, I did it like that, I did it with a wiffle ball bat. They're pretty strong when the impact is along their longitudinal axis. You could do it in one. I went to jail once for defending a girl who was being hit by her boyfriend. It was the worst night of my life. I spent 2 months' rent on lawyers, charges dropped. I had to hide what happened in fear my company would fire me. My girlfriend used it as leverage to threaten me. That chick didn't even break up with her boyfriend. It was one of the worst periods of my life. About 6 months afterwards, my buddy went to jail for several months while awaiting trial for shooting and killing a man whom he stopped from beating a woman, presumably his girlfriend, in the street. The man took out a bat and hit my buddy in the face with it, knocking him to the ground, and then went back to continue assaulting the woman. My friend shot him and he died. What was the verdict? Not guilty, self-defense. And defending the woman, except the woman testified against my friend. What a dumb bitch. Stockholm Syndrome is very real. Avenging my mother, who was murdered by the babysitter in 2006. There wasn't enough proof to look into it back then, and the statute of limitations was up the year after. There was enough that had been going on years prior leading up to the event that she should have been looked into. I've tried searching for her online just to give myself some closure, to no avail, so my best bet is hoping that she's just died bitter and alone, preferably painful. Where do you live that the statute of limitations on murder is only a year? I'm in Tennessee, and while everything I read said there was no statute, when I finally got my mother's autopsy report years later, BC babysitter had listed herself as next of kin when she wasn't. I called and spoke to an attorney about what could be done. They told me since it happened in 2006 and it was then around 2016, they couldn't do anything and I would have had to call before 2007 ended. Apparently my sister wanted to open an investigation when it happened, but there wasn't enough proof or foul play. Well, I'm not a lawyer, but a quick Google does say there's no statute of limitations on murder in Tennessee. I'm pretty sure that's true nationwide, honestly. Sorry. I don't want to drag a bunch unpleasantness up for you, so feel free to ignore me or tell me to frick off or whatever if you don't want to talk about it. I'm just curious. As far as talking to an attorney, maybe they were assuming some sort of civil action or something. There's probably a limit on that. If it could be established a murder had taken place and who the responsible, they absolutely could still be prosecuted, but you'd have to get the police and district attorney on board. From what you said at the end, I take it your mother's death wasn't ruled a murder at the time. Autopsy said overdose, but the medications that were above lethal limit weren't ones she took. They were ones the babysitter took. Unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to get medical records either to keep investigating further for myself. I do know, however, that after Mom passed, the babysitter went on to date my brother's dad, who she years previously claimed r*ped her, and told my brother, "You can call me Mommy now," after she'd already attempted to kidnap him a few months prior to our mom's death. For the longest time my brother's family knew where she was, but never would say. Now they say they don't know, could be dead or could be in a home still. I remember how the woman looked back then, how she smelled and sounded, how her hands felt like when she made us hold them if we were out somewhere, and her full name and what address we used. She lived with us for a majority of time that I remember, and yet nothing pops up. Using excessive force in self-defense or defense of my family. I've been in enough fights to know I need to make sure they don't get up. Or watched enough horror movies. Finish them off. Never bring a knife to a gunfight. Never bring a Russian to Ukraine. Tax evasion, but catch me if you can. You must not owe much because at the end of the day, if the taxman has to come for you, he will come for you with the force of God. Can't pull me out of Belarus though, can they? They will find a way. Don't mess with the IRS, aka the pimp hand of Uncle Sam. He will get his money. Lol. Sucking off a duck in Chick-fil A parking lot at 2:30 a.m. on a Sunday naked. Oddly specific. I honestly don't think you'd go to jail for this. Bet you'd be real popular on TikTok. Something like large money laundering or stock market manipulation. If you are capable of doing such things, that means you are crazy freaking rich and you can probably get out easily by bail. If you get enough money out of it, you're not a criminal, you're a capitalist. Right. That's the best outcome. You simply pay your way out instead of rotting in jail. There's two old guys in my neighborhood. One of them goes for walks with a stick in his hand and will threaten to hit any dog that comes even close to them. I'm not talking about aggressive dogs, but something as simple as, I'm walking my dog on the sidewalk, my dog is leashed, and my dog looks at him when we cross paths, not even a sniff. We also have a dog park. A dog park, a secure area where the dogs are allowed to be off their leash. It is in a convenient enough spot that many people prefer to cross the park instead of walking around it. Everyone knows it is a dog park. No one is bothered by dogs walking up to them. Not a single dog is aggressive. Well, these two old dudes will walk in the dog park and threaten the dogs. One of them is the same guy with a stick I mentioned earlier. The other is a man with a cane, who goes for a walk with his grandkid who seems to be somewhere in the spectrum, and he happens to be terrified of dogs. Poor kid, it is not his fault, but the old man will insist on going with the kid to the dog park, and will then yell at us for having our dogs off the leash while they're there, in a dog park. The day any of these two dudes hits my dog is the day I'll be in trouble. What country do you live in? 'Cause if it's America, you should stay strapped to protect your dogs. I'm in Mexico, and we keep our dogs on a leash all times while on the street or normal parks, but there are a few dog parks where it is explicitly allowed to have dogs off the leash. There's one near my house where I go almost daily. Most people is quite nice about it, and a few times where someone is afraid of a dog, or don't want them near for some reason, they simply ask, and we all hold ours while they go by, so that's not really an issue. It is just these two old men who are very aggressive towards dogs and the owners. The one with a stick carries it with that specific purpose, and the other one goes absolutely ballistic as soon as a dog looks at him. Not going to war. I refuse to go to war. If there is a draft, they will have to throw me in jail or kill me. I'm not killing people so some rich cuck gets a bigger paycheck. If a cop shoots my family or my dog for no reason, pineapple goes on pizza. You can simply be a conscientious objector if they draft you. By law, in the civilized Western nations, they will have to put you in a logistical position away from the front lines. Unless your government's shit, then they'll just put you in jail, or if they go by the more useful punishments, hard labor for the rest of the war. On March 8, 1995, the United Nations Commission on Human Rights Resolution 1995/83 stated that persons performing military service should not be excluded from the right to have conscientious objections to military service. I know most Western countries will follow it, unless their governments are a-holes. China does a loophole where you need to serve to have full citizen benefits or something. No, I will not participate at all in any capacity. Beating up someone who fricks with my friends or siblings. It'd be a count of murder if it was really screwing up their mental health. My sister struggles with racism at her school because she's Asian, she was adopted, and it's had her really upset recently, and I'm about to go to her school. She's in middle school, I'm a high schooler, and beat that kid up. The school has done nothing, of course, because it's the American public school system. Nothing. I have just my wife, and let's say someone killed my wife. So I kill them and go to prison. WTF does that accomplish? Wife is dead and I am locked up for the rest of my life. Let's say with was the big R, I kill the guy, go to prison. Now my wife has to navigate her trauma and worry about keeping the home. I saw the top comment was, as someone hurts my daughter. Yay, kill them, right? Now your daughter is dealing with her trauma and no fricking father. I get it, but what they said in the top comment was more about emotions than logic. I picture myself as a father, husband, and one day I am told about something like that and frick. I don't like violence, and I perceive in a pretty dark way the fact of going to someone to hurt him, doing it, and later having to deal with that marked with fire in my memory. But even knowing that and being reasonable, I know I will have a big desire of going to hurt back and make the kind of justice that's in my hands, and I know that feeling will follow me and mess with me a fricking long time. I thought I will accept and completely understand that that's not what my loved one wants from me. Killing political leaders who are frick-ups. Think about it. A national program that could refer political leaders to death over mismanagement via referendum. No absentee or mail-in ballots though. You have to vote in person. That would surely weed out the bad apples. That could work. But technically speaking, the Second Amendment does say somewhere that we can execute political leaders. The problem with it is that ignorant gun-toting asshats prefer to take their insecurities out on others more than the people actively and continually inflicting problematic inconveniences on their daily lives. As I get older, the list gets longer. Jail seems like a nice little break. I'm not responsible for making the meals. I get an hour outside. I get to read all day or meditate. Outfit looks comfy AF. Don't have to go to work. Kids won't nag me. I mean, other than the survival and chilling with, like, actual murderers and stuff, it doesn't seem too bad. Sincerely, a tired mom. My freedom. How ironic, but true. I don't ever want to be trapped or stuck. I want to be able to move when need be, because even if I like a place, I will only remain no more than 3 years. Chicago was the longest with 5. Otherwise I need change, and I can't have change without freedom. Not the change I want anyways. If you are hearing this, please subscribe. I'll help you out with new videos.